Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Bandits. I'm Brian and this is Austin. And we got a lot of good games this week, so we're just going to get right on in and just start talking about them. Our first game is LSU traveling to Auburn this week, a big matchup of undefeated Tiger teams in the SEC. Austin, how do you think LSU can pull off this game?
Well, the fact Auburn's going to be coming off a big win over Arkansas. They put up 65 points last week, and so they stand a real good chance to have a kind of hangover from that offensively. For LSU, their key is to try to slow down Cam Newton. He's a Heisman candidate. He's the quarterback for Auburn, but he's more than a quarterback to them. He's also like a running back. He's their leading rusher. He's their leading passer, and he had 4 total touchdowns against Arkansas, so he's their key offensively. For LSU, they had a pretty poor performance against McNeese State. The main reason that the score wasn't any closer is because of a 45-yard kickoff return and a 34-yard punt return, which helped them move away from McNeese State, which kept it a pretty good close game there in the first half. Their offense is going to have to put up points to try to compete with Auburn. You can't hold Auburn to just 10, 13 points. Auburn's going to find a way to put up points, and you got to find a way to put up more.
In this game, I really think that Auburn needs to have Cam Newton have a big game offensively. And on the defensive side, they need to slow down LSU's passing game. McNeese State somehow was able to slow down LSU's passing game last week, and they stayed in the game for quite a while. Now, Les Miles was quoted saying he's seen the team throw better in practice, but it hasn't come out in the game. Well, last time I checked, practice didn't matter, and the game matters. So I think LSU needs to try to come out and establish the passing game, and Auburn needs to slow it down and have Cam Newton have a very offensive, running, passing, great game on the offensive side of the ball.
We're talking about practice.
We are talking about practice.
Going on to the Big Ten, Wisconsin, after that, coming off that big win against Ohio State last weekend, will go to Iowa to take on Ricky Stanzi and the Hawkeyes. Brian, what do you see happening there?
Well, in this game, I think Iowa's been fairly dominant so far in the Big Ten. They had that one slip-up at Arizona, but I really think in this game, Ricky Stanzi is going to have a big game. The key for Iowa is to get penetration through the Wisconsin offensive line. The offensive line for Wisconsin is huge. They are just 4, 5 big, massive guys up there, and they create huge holes for the running backs, and that's what killed Ohio State last week. I look for Wisconsin to be on a slight downslope coming off that win versus Ohio State. They put a lot of energy into that game, and having to play another quality team right again, I don't look for them to come out very strong in this game, and I think Iowa will be able to get the penetration on defense, and that Ricky Stanzi can have a big game throwing the ball over the top, and I think Iowa can pull this game out.
Well, I think Wisconsin did a couple things real well last week, which helped them beat Ohio State. First thing is they were committed to their running game. John Clay had 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. James White with 75 yards and a touchdown. That is the main reason their offense was able to put up so many points on Ohio State. The other main reason, I think this was probably the biggest reason, is their defense held Terrell Pryor to 156 passing yards. Ohio State has a very potent offense, and they pretty much limited Terrell Pryor to nothing offensively. They're going to have to do that same thing to Ricky Stanzi and the Iowa offense to try to keep them off the board.
Moving on to 2 big games in the Big 12 this week. First off, we'll talk about the Oklahoma Sooners traveling to Missouri. Austin, how do you think OU can win this game?
Well, we have a very potent offense with Jones, Murray, and Broyles. They've been putting up points. They put up 52 last week against Iowa State. And they're going to need to have that same potent offense this week as they face the number 2 points against defense in Missouri. They're going to need to try to get a score quickly, try to get the crowd out of it, because this is going to be an excited Missouri crowd. They're getting to take on a number 1 team on Saturday night. It's going to be packed. It's going to be exciting. For Missouri, their best threat is Blaine Gabbert, their quarterback. He's coming off his best game of the season in terms of passing yards and touchdowns. The OU defense needs to get up front, needs to put pressure on him, and force Gabbert to make bad passes. Because the closest game so far this year for Missouri was a 3-point win over San Diego State, and that statistically was Gabbert's worst game of the season.
I think in this game, Missouri really needs to get some pressure on Landry Jones. They have their best pass rusher in Alden Smith coming back from injury. He's missed the last 3 games with a broken bone in his leg. And I look for him. He was quoted saying that he would not miss this game for anything. I think Missouri is really hyped up for this game. It's homecoming. They're playing under the lights. Student section will be loud. It'll be a great atmosphere in Columbia. And I look for them to try to get pressure on Landry Jones. And if they can do that, they'll slow down the passing game. They'll slow down the rushing game. I think that if you want to stop OU's offense, you have to cause Landry Jones to not play well on the road, which has been a trending habit in the last year. So I think if Missouri can get pressure on him early, it could cause all sorts of problems for the Sooners.
Going to the other Big 12 game, Nebraska, coming off that loss to Texas, goes to Oklahoma State to take on the undefeated Cowboys. Brian, what do you see Nebraska doing?
Well, in this game, I think that Nebraska, they had that loss to Texas last week. Taylor Martinez didn't play from about the middle of the third quarter on, and I really think that Bo Pelini will come out, put faith in Taylor Martinez, and let him start this game, and he'll come out having something to prove, and he'll run up a bunch of offensive yards, I think, on Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's defense has been no slouch this year, but I really look for Taylor Martinez to have a big game here. And on the defensive side of the ball for Nebraska, they have to stop Justin Blackmon. He has just been phenomenal so far and putting up like record-setting numbers for that OSU receiving corps. And I think if Brandon Weeden can hit Justin Blackmon multiple times for big plays, it could be a knockout punch for Nebraska. So I think on offense, Taylor Martinez, big game, defense, stop Justin Blackmon.
Well, I think you nailed the three big names in this game. First with Justin Blackmon, Oklahoma State's receiver. He has 12 of their 21 passing touchdowns so far. He's caught 12 of their 21 passing touchdowns so far this year. So he is their key as wide receiver for Brandon Weeden, who the last 3 weeks has thrown 2 interceptions in each of the games. That's something that's going to have to change against a very good Nebraska defense. On the other side of the ball, Texas was able to confuse Taylor Martinez and get him pulled from the game last week. If Oklahoma State can rattle him early, they have a chance to do the same thing that Texas did.
Moving on to our last game we're going to talk about today is a very intriguing game where the very prolific Air Force offense travels to TCU and their very stout run defense. Austin, how do you see TCU being able to pull this game out?
Well, TCU has the 7th-ranked scoring offense in the country, and they're led by quarterback Andy Dalton, who has 13 touchdowns against 4 interceptions this year. The undefeated TCU Horned Frogs are going to have a really good offense. Ed Wesley at the running back. They put up a fair amount of points, along with the fact that their defense is number 1 with points against the season. They're going up against a different defense in with Air Force running their triple option. Not many schools do it, so it's something different to defend. We'll see how TCU's defense matches up against that.
I think in this game for Air Force, they've just got to rely on their very prolific offense. That triple option is very deadly. Most teams don't know how to cover it. It's something you only cover once. You don't practice it a whole lot on defense because you never face it. So I think for Air Force, they need to come out, establish that triple option, and hopefully they can be able to put some points up on TCU. Now, we saw when they came to Norman, they're a very good team, a very quality team in Air Force, and they are looking to try to get a big upset this year. They almost did it in Norman. I look for them to play tough and stay in this game all the way to the end at TCU.
And now time to make some picks for this week, but first we're going to introduce our special guest. He won the drawing last week if you were watching. Here's Andy Melvin.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for joining us on the show today.
Hey, Brian, it's great to be here.
Good to have you.
Well, we'll start with our first game. LSU travels to Auburn. Andy, why don't you start us off?
Well, I got to take Auburn in this one. They've been really good at home, and their defense probably got a good chewing out after their performance against Arkansas last week, so I can't go against Auburn.
In this game, I really think that Auburn's playing at home. They've found ways to win at home all season. LSU hasn't. Neither of these teams have really looked that impressive in all their games this year. And I really think that Auburn can find a way to win this game at home against an LSU team that's had its struggles.
I agree. I think Auburn is the better team. I think LSU has had a lot of problems this year. You remember back at the end of that Tennessee game where everything went wrong, but they managed to win. I think now it's going to catch up with them, and I think that Auburn will take the victory 35-21.
All right, moving on to the game in the Big Ten, we have Wisconsin traveling to Iowa. Austin, how do you see this game playing out?
I like Wisconsin. I like what they did last week against Ohio State, and I like them to do it again here and get a big road win, upsetting Iowa about 21-17.
I see this game. Iowa's been really good so far. Wisconsin's looked really good, but I really see Wisconsin being on the downslope after that game last week. I think Iowa can get some defensive penetration on that line, slow down the run game, and be able to push past Wisconsin in this game. Andy, how do you see this game going?
I can't pick against Iowa at home. I mean, they've played well at home all year. They play well at home every year, and I think Wisconsin's going to come in with a big head after knocking off Ohio State last week. I just think Iowa's going to get this one.
Going on to the Big 12, Nebraska travels to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. Brian?
Well, in this game, I really think that Brandon Weeden and Justin Blackmon can have a great game together, and they can put up a lot of yards, and they're playing at home where they've been very good so far. But I think Nebraska, coming off that loss last week, is going to be up, looking to make a stand to show that they can still potentially be in the national championship hunt with all the teams that have lost so far. And I really think that Nebraska can be able to push past Oklahoma State, who really hasn't played anybody yet. I think this will actually be a very good game, better than most people are thinking, but I think Nebraska will win in the end.
Yeah, I think Nebraska's going to take this one. I think they're upset with the way they played last week. I think Taylor Martinez has learned from his mistakes last week. He'll play better, and I think Nebraska will take a 31-28 win. Andy?
I also like Nebraska in this one. I think they've got a fire going after losing to Texas last week, after building up to that game all year. OSU, they just don't have the defense to stop Taylor Martinez. There's no way. I see Nebraska taking this one pretty easily.
Saturday night football, Oklahoma travels to Missouri. Andy, who do you have in this one?
I like Oklahoma. I think it's going to be important for us to contain Gabbert, Mizzou's quarterback. He's a beast, and I think we can take this one by 10 if we play as well as we're capable of playing.
In this game, I think that Missouri's defense is going to be very strong. They'll have the crowd behind them. I think they'll get some pressure on Landry Jones, but he'll have just enough people to relieve that pressure. I think he can hit Ryan Broyles, DeMarco Murray, and the swing pass right off there. He'll have Roy Finch, new addition to the backfield, that put up some big numbers against Iowa State, almost 100 yards and only 16 carries. I think that he's got enough players around him with plenty of experience that play well on the road to be able to relieve that pressure off of him and help the Sooners pull out a victory, but barely. Very good game this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I think Oklahoma's very deep at the skills positions, and I think they'll find a way to win this one, 27-17. Our final game is Air Force taking on TCU. Andy?
I like TCU in this one. I think TCU is too much for any team in the conference, and they're playing at home. You can't deny TCU in this one. They're going to run all over Air Force.
I think Air Force does have a very dynamic offense. Their defense will step up, play well. I think they'll be able to stay in this game for quite a while, but in the end, TCU playing at home is just going to be a little too strong for Air Force, and they're not going to be able to stop them. Look for TCU to take another step towards an undefeated season again.
Yeah, I think TCU's just set on a collision course with Utah for that Mountain West title and being undefeated and hopefully a BCS bid for them. And I think TCU will find a way to take care of business at home, 30-14.
All right, well, Andy, thank you for joining us on the show today, and we thank all of you out there for joining us, and we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also to add us on the Facebook page, the Sports Bandits, and we hope that you all enjoy the show, and we'll see you again next week.